My name is Rob Small. In 2010, whilst working as a dive instructor on the island of Zanzibar, my house caught fire, trapping me inside. For 10 days without any painkillers or intravenous fluids, my life hung in the balance. Once back in the UK, with over 200 days spent in hospital, 1 month of that in a coma, and 36 operations so far, I'm finally getting my life back to normal and ready for a new adventure. So, together with a filmmaking friend of mine, Kevin, and armed with just a couple of iPhones and a drone to record our journey, we wanted to see how far we could bikepack around Iceland. We've never done anything like this before, but we're up for the challenge. And a bit of a laugh. I guess you could say I've really come from fire to ice.
This is going to be a long flat road, and then how many kilometre climb?
23, I think it is.
23 kilometres of climbing. We are not looking forward to it.
We're talking between cars.
That's all I can say. We're sitting out a storm. We had to quickly duck off the road. There were some very dark and looming clouds on the horizon, and luckily we quickly got the tent up in about 10 minutes and dived into our respective tents. Rob is about 10 meters away from me, and all is well and good. And also reflecting again on Rob, and I keep on coming back to this, but he is just one of the most amazing people I've ever met. And I don't know if it's because he overcame the most horrendous of injuries, the most horrendous pain, the most horrendous set of circumstances. I mean, that guy really should have died, and he didn't. He survived the fire. And his body may still bear the scars. Obviously you can't see them because they're under, his legs and his back and stuff. But that man's heart is so big and so warm.
When we landed in the UK, I wasn't meant to survive the flight. So I was a bit surprised, along with everybody else actually, and everybody got off the plane and I was still lying there. And I just remember the first vision of the ambulance crew. And there's a guy, and he had this crisp line down his uniform where he'd been ironed in this green jumpsuit. The hospital I'd been in, they were in flip-flops and raggy shorts. And I just thought, that's it, I can let go now. Not let go as in die. I'd been fighting for 9-10 days at that point to stay alive. And the only way I could is to control everything. But this angel, this whatever he is, had the qualifications and the care and everything. I didn't have to try anymore. And it was such a comforting moment to see this person come on the plane.
I am getting tired of cycling, I must confess. Just the thought of cycling uphill in the wind doesn't excite me at all. But the sense of journey, the sense of adventure, that for me is what it's about. I know Rob's filming this, obviously, because he's holding the camera, there's no one else here. But I couldn't think of a better person to do it with than Robbo. And that is very true.
Cheers, buddy.
You never complain, you never moan. We haven't had one little argument. It's just been awesome cycling with Rob. I'm going to cry in my breakfast. No, it's true. And look at that, as I say that, the sun comes out.
Back of the tarmac, back of the number one.
The sun is always shining bright. People are smiling, making plans, hiding behind their shades, and you're doing the same. No rain, no flowers, nothing's growing where your heart is fire. But baby, I bet you're cold.
This is what we're walking up to today, which is not the nicest conditions. As you see, it's maybe a little bit windy and a little bit rainy. It's not that cold, which is nice, but this constant wind and light rain makes cycling a bit hard. So the plan for 50 kilometers today might be right out the window, and we'll see what we get. But it's a case of head down and trying to get the miles into the wind, but it's energy sapping.
Both Kevin and I have ancestral ties to Scotland. I was born in Aberdeen, and Kevin's family's from Edinburgh. So this historical site reminded us both of similar events back home.
Can't see it, but I'm assuming there was, well, this settlement, or this multiple families lived there since the 20s and was abandoned in 1966. And it says there's cottages there now. I mean, we can't see it, but I'm assuming this area was the settlement of all these people. I mean, in many ways, it reminds me of the clearances, I can't say that word, clearances that happened back home, where they cleared the lands for other use, pasture use, I think it was, cattle and stuff, I'm not sure.
During our planning, we knew there were a few tunnels that we're not allowed to use. But there was nothing to say that this tunnel was one of them. Besides, there was no way we were going to go around it. That could have added over 50k to the day.
Tunnel rats.
Tunnel rats. This is really surreal, isn't it? We're under a mountain, and you can hear the echo. Rob's a bit worried that we can't stop, but at the end of the day,
You can't stop in a tunnel.
of course you can stop in a tunnel. There's no tunnel police.
If you're broken down
Yeah, well, we got a problem with our pedals.
with a camera.
With our camera. It keeps on wanting to record. So
It's nice to be out of the rain, though.
this is the driest we've been in quite a few hours. I mean, if Rob wasn't too apprehensive, I'd even suggest having lunch in here, but
You want to set up your tent in here.
I tell you, setting up a tent in here would be friggin' awesome, wouldn't it?
You're a bit loud at
I
night.
mean, I don't know, who would come along? Can you just imagine putting your tent out, making a cup of tea in the tunnel? All right, we'll carry on. But it is really nice and dry.
a bit breezy.
A bit breezy, let's get going.
Keep the momentum! Something that I used to remind myself on the down times when cycling around here was that people do this able-bodied and they struggle. And I was struggling, but I was doing it with a hip replacement, with a month in a coma, with 6 months in hospital, with 35, 36 operations, so many I can't even remember anymore, with having to learn to walk again. It's just a cycle around an island, right?
This is what we have to do so you can hear us. I've always wanted to do this. Testing. Testing 1, 2, testing. It's like it was never there.
It hasn't been hidden here the whole time, just so you know. What a weird little campsite, mate. I mean, the pitches, if you just come round a little bit, it's like a gravel ground, and they've put down artificial, well, it's not artificial, but there's weird patches, which for drainage is probably really good, because all the water's got to come down on this bits here, and you're going to get no water. But if we keep walking this way, you'll find the small problem we've got. They're all windward. Every single pitch is into the wind, which is a little bit silly. Let's go back over to away from the wind. So we either have to pick one of these, or I'm thinking I get my sleeping bag. Oh, more room. There we go. It's warm. It's windproof. It's close to the toilets. And I'm actually only half joking. That's the really weird bit. If no one else comes, why go through the effort of getting in that when I can get my sleeping bag and my mat? Perfect.
Do you realise this is the ladies though?
Yes. There's no ladies are going to come down here, pal. I mean, I'm not even kidding. This is perfect.
Perhaps sleeping in the toilets wasn't such a bad idea, because again, we were being hit by another storm, stronger than the last.
Rob just checks his phones, gusts up to 70 kilometers an hour. And this is a very, very, very strong tent, but I'm not sure about this, actually. And there's no way we can cycle in gusts of 70 kilometers. And according to the weather report, this is going to last for, give or take, 3 or 4 more days.
Instead of taking the chance of losing Kevin's tent, which was pancaking on quite flat, and we dig it down. We're both in my tent for the night because it seems anyway just now a little bit more sturdy. So we're like 2 peas in a pod, we are like. We're in nice and tight tonight. Hopefully get a good night's sleep, and we'll be good again to go tomorrow.
When we wake, hear the birds and see the sun. Side by side our fears are done. Oh, the good times just begun. Oh, we know what we have, let's hold on tight.
Look at this! We've made it all the way around Iceland, and this is the first sign that says Reykjavik on it. So it's the first time we can see how far it is to get back. And it's 454 kilometers. Ah, love that sign! Mwah!
We got it.
Wow. Mountain range is gorgeous.
We don't need no more. Even in the hard times, you and I can weather any storm.
We just got a bit of information. We got back, and the lovely lady here said there's a weather warning. Okay, well, we've kind of been in Iceland a little bit. We're used to weather warnings, so we came down, we made some coffee and got a bit of a snack, and I decided to look up this weather warning. So the wind that me and Kevin were in a couple of days ago, where Kevin's tent got flattened, and we needed to go into my tent, and it was borderline and bent my pole, was, I can't remember what sustained was, but gusts were 50s to 60s or something like that. It was quite hard. So we were like, okay, we'll check the weather warning. So I just looked up the wind speeds. I'm going to share it with you now. Sustained wind of 53, gusts of 108. We can't go out in that. I'm not even kidding. There's not even a tent. I'm not sure a brick wall can stand 108. I don't know what we're going to do.
The storm was due in under 24 hours, so we just had the time to get onto the Vatnajökull Glacier, Iceland's largest. This massive ice cap is about 7.5 times the size of Greater London.
When opportunities arise like this one, sometimes you just got to take them. And completely by chance, the opportunity to get onto the glacier was presented last night. Only now do you start to get a sense of elevation. When it reads out right now that we're 330 meters, and we're starting to look down on some of the mountains, and some of the lakes on top of the mountains we're now looking down on, and some of these really big openings around us. It's fantastic. It's a sense of really being up there.
I met an old man. I said, tell me your story. He took out a notepad and wrote something for me. He kept kept walking on down the road, and I watched him disappear like smoke. And I thought I'd just seen a ghost. Then I looked down at what he wrote.
This was a bit unexpected, wasn't it?
If you'd have said to me this time yesterday, when we were cycling, that we would be on a glacier looking at a massive crevasse, I wouldn't have believed you, mate.
Watch your step behind you though, because it's right there. It was like a twist of fate. It was the tiniest little thought, then all of a sudden, it's like a snowball effect. Oh look, there's a glacier there. I wonder if, and then all of a sudden it's happening. And the next thing I know, we're driving up the side of the mountain in the best car in the world.
Is this the first time you've been on a glacier?
This is, I think, yeah, I've been to them. This is the first time I've been on top of one. And hence, this is why I'm smiling like this, like a Cheshire cat.
Our unplanned glacier trip was certainly the highlight of our journey. But the consequence was we'd lost 2 days on an already tight schedule. And tomorrow, the big storm would be coming. So we headed back to base to get ready for that one.
You can only feel it here every now and then when this little hut shakes. Whereas the only indication, the noise is loud, that we're currently being hit by, well, at this point it's not too bad yet, it's only about 108 km/h gusts. But for the next 6 hours, it's up over 100, peaking at 128. And the idea of being in a tent in this, part of me thinks would be great fun. And that's only to see when the tent will buckle.
Whoa, I thought the door was going to go in. I've actually locked the door, Rob, so the door doesn't fly open. It's certainly sketchy, and the thought of cycling in this would be totally...
You couldn't?
You couldn't.
No, there's
no way on earth you could physically cycle. I mean, we're going to try it later on and see if we could even stand in it.
In a funny way, we did enjoy the storm. It was a laugh, and it gave us a break from cycling. But it smashed our schedule, and although it wasn't our goal, it did mean the chance of going full circle was slipping away from us fast.
What a difference a day makes. Can you believe that this time yesterday, well maybe a bit later than this time yesterday, there was winds of around, hundreds, 110, 120 km/h smashing the side of these buildings and this landscape. And this morning, we're back in shorts and t-shirt, or shorts, t-shirt and jacket. Sunglasses are on, and it's actually a bit warm lying here. So for a completely different reason, I don't want to leave this hut again. Last time because I didn't want to get pounded by the wind and rain. This time, I reckon I could get a bit of a suntan if I'm lucky. That was a long slog, that. Glad we're up here because the view is fantastic. A little bit colder, so I think we're hoping there's at least 5, hopefully 10k downhill from this point, but I'm not sure. But we're not going to spend too long up here because as soon as we stop climbing that hill, it's a bit cold.
In total, we'd lost 5 days because of storms. There was no way we'd make that up. Still, we wanted to reach a place that was definitely on our bucket list. The Glacial Lagoon. This ended up being our final destination. We travelled nearly 1,000 kilometres, uphill, downhill, in wind and rain, but we'd got this far.
This is quite a big moment for me, actually. Glacier Bay. This is where I wanted to get to. This was the place I wanted to get to.
I think it's amazing that we've made it this far. This was always our dream to get to this point. Reykjavik was always going to be our bonus destination, but the weather has, kind of prevented that. We lost 5 days because of the storms and stuff. It doesn't matter. It's an amazing place. to see these fresh carvings coming off the glacier, then will end up into the salt water and disappear.
We headed down to the beach. We wanted to see where these glacial carvings ended up. It was surreal. These massive chunks of ice marooned on the volcanic black sand.
It's a bit strange that it's almost over, or over. This has consumed the last 6 months of our thinking, and it's a bit surreal that it kind of comes to an end, as all things have to. I'm not sure what I've got to do with my time all of a sudden, because I've just thought of this trip for 6 months. And we're not completely done yet, but it's done enough that it's now in my head. Still one last thing we've got to do, man. One last thing.
Our last night was spent at the glacial lagoon. The cycling was now in the bag. But there was one final place we had to see before we headed back home. So Stina collected us, and together we drove to the Fakladalsfjall volcano.
I've been acting like a wild man, sleeping like a child. You're so luminous and vibrant. I'm always in bloom for you. Always in bloom. Always in bloom for
I think any parent wants to act like they can do anything in front of the child. And that's natural. And a child up until a certain age idolizes their parents and think they can do anything. My little boy's been aware of my injury, for years. He knows what it is. He might not grasp the idea of that I was on fire and what it is, but he knows that my legs look different and I look different. One of the biggest fears I had was the school sports day. Now, before the fire, the parents' race, I'd be limbering up in the side because I'm pretty confident I was destroying everyone. But I can't run. I can't run. My body can't run. And I was petrified of this race. Not because I wouldn't win, because my little boy looks at me and thinks my daddy can do this. And to watch me absolutely fail at that because my body will not allow me to do it would have broke my heart. And I did the race, and I ran the best I possibly could and won. Just so you know. And I was sore, but that was 10-50% me and 75% him looking at me. And if he was here, I'd run up the perhaps. There's a weird, it's almost like earlier when we're at the Glacier Bay, it felt very surreal, like an end of what we've done, but this really is far twice, and we're sitting at the volcano. And it's still smoking, and it's not maybe, erupting as such, but this is from far twice. This is it. And for the end of the trip, what this really is. A little bit sad, to be honest.
As the time in Iceland drew to an end, we looked back with a sense of pride. Neither of us had ever done anything like this before on bikes. When I think about the time I lay in hospital for over 200 days, never really knowing how I'd fully recover, it was in those darkest moments that I was able to find the strength needed to accept my injuries and just get on with life. Besides the wind, the rain, and the uphill climbs, this adventure has been above all about friendship. And that is something that no fire will ever take from me. I guess you could say I've really come from fire to ice.
Eruption now. Eruption now. Now. Yo, eruption now. Eruption now. Eruption now, man. You really could get that. It's not long.
I know, but it's also freezing and we've got work to do, mate.
Welcome to Hot Springs, mate. Eruption now. Welcome to Iceland, baby. Eruption now. Can somebody press the eruption button, please? Working with allergy. Welcome to For Flight to Iceland. Eruption now. Eruption now. Eruption now. Are you still recording?
Yeah.
Oh shit. Eruption now. Magic fingers, baby.